Welcome back to the most game-changing 79 build you'll see on YouTube. For years, I've always said I'd hated the 79 series, so I went and bought one. And over the next few months, I'm going to be building this cruiser to decide, do I really hate them or am I a secret Land Cruiser lover? Previously, we bought this 2009 single cab 79 series ute. It was in pretty bad shape, but that's what we want to start with as we fully rebuild this thing from the ground up. In this episode, we get the motor mocked up into the chassis, make some fish plates to strengthen it. We finally get to lay some paint and reveal what color we're painting this Land Cruiser. Guys, welcome back. We are back. Now you may notice something different at the start of this video. I look great, don't I? And I'll tell you why. It's pretty exciting news actually. I finally got a brand new lens for my camera. Let me show you something. I've been hearing it in the comments for literally ages about the black dots on the screen, clean your lens, and let me tell you something about how to film Built Not Bored episodes. You're grinding, you're welding, and this is the result. Look at the front of this lens. I don't know if it gets in focus. We have had, can you see it? We have had scratches, drops, welding sparks, grinding sparks, absolutely burning up this lens, and it is flogged. Look at the marks on it. Finally got a new lens. Now, I didn't only just get a new lens, I fully upgraded. So this is an f4 16-35. Let me show you what I got. I'm gonna have to switch lenses to show you this. Right, switch to the shit lens. I don't know if you can tell, I couldn't tell, but apparently you guys could. This is what I got. We've gone for an upgrade. We got a G-Master, baby. It is a 16-35, but f2.8. These things are about 3 grand, all right? So the footage now should be crisp, and I am going to get myself a clear ND filter just to protect this one, but there's no marks on this bad boy. Anyway, enjoy the crispy episode. Let's switch back to this one and we'll rip into this week's video. Right, new lens feels. All right, let's go for a walk. Where are we up to? Guys, I've just got back from a 10-day trip overseas filming for the TFI. The best 20 minutes of content I've ever put together in my 10 years of making videos. It's going to come out, I'll put the date here, I'm not sure, I think it's in a couple of months, but I've been working my ass off on this film. So that's why I've been away for a bit, and I've got to catch myself up onto where we're at. So cab is here. So this was ready for paint. Fingers crossed in this episode, we're gonna lay some paint on this cab. Once that's sprayed, we can start assembling the interior. What else do we have? Engine and gearbox. We need to get this thing mocked up in the chassis. Before we can move anywhere forward on the chassis at all, we need to get this thing mounted to work out where the engine mounts are going. Finally got the rubbers off the boys and all the bits and pieces for the 8 HP. Basically, there's a mount that goes on the bottom of that adapter onto your cross member. So I think the plan for the start of this episode, to get the chassis down, it's out here, get this chassis down off the hoist and roll it out the way, get the cab back onto the hoist and lift it up, put your chassis back up, get the forklift and drop the engine and gearbox in. This is that mount that I was waiting for. So that is what mounts the adapter / gearbox transfer case to your cruiser. Now, I was speaking to Kaylin, who's doing a bunch of CAD work for me from EPC, and there's a couple of options. I'll run upstairs on the computer and show you what I mean by that. And then once the motor's mocked up sitting in the chassis, it can sort of float around and we can drop the cab up and down, check for firewall clearances, and I do want to finger tight the front guards, front clip, and drop a radiator in. And if I can get 180 mil gap between the front of the motor and the radiator, we can run a clutch fan. That is what I want to do. That is the magic number. So let's run upstairs and I'll show you what Kaylin's been working on. Right, so Kaylin has had the scan file. The boys came around and scanned. Guys, if you get flicker like that in your videos from the lights, just flick your shutter speed down to like 1/50th. Look at that. All right, so Kaylin has had the scan file for the engine. We scanned the chassis, the bare chassis, and the cab / firewall and floor. I can't show you that on my computer because I don't have the freaking computer capacity. This thing nearly crashed his computer with the amount of RAM. But he has done all the CAD work and we've got engine mounts. So there's 2 options. This is like the factory location engine mount, or these ones are for pushing it back. Regardless what we're doing, we're running fish plates. So fish plates go on the chassis first, and the 2 options, we will run standard position where the 8 HP normally sits for the 8-speed cruisers, but that means the engine's pushed forward heaps, and I don't think the radiator situation is going to work, and you have a massive gap from the firewall to the motor. Not ideal. You want it far back as possible for kind of your weight distribution plus diff coming up into sump, not ideal. So the second option, push the whole motor and trans back 100 mil, making the motor placement really good. But then your gearbox cross member is going to have to move. So I'm going to have to cut out the original one, make a new one and do that. So they're the two options. I want to drop the motor into a factory position, have a look, then push it back 100 mil, see if that works better. Then we can go forward with how we're going to do it. Kaylin's drawn up engine mounts for both scenarios. So I can cut them with my plasma cutter, a couple of versions to mock it up, tack it in and see what works best. Let's get into it.
Alright, it has been a couple of weeks since I've been back in the shed. Just had to organise the workshop a little bit. To get the forklift in, I have to move like 400 cars around, and we ripped the cab out of my engine room. I put it in there just so I didn't get a bunch of crap on it while I was away. So we ripped it outside, and I basically want to get the cab floating above the chassis on the hoist so we can drop it down and get it aligned.
Alright guys, the weather has turned it on again for us here on the Sunshine Coast. Now, as I said earlier in this episode, I'm fingers crossed I can lay some paint. The only thing stopping me doing that is the fucking weather. I don't know why, but I always seem to paint a car smack bang in the middle of winter. This time last year it was the Chev, the year before that it was the LM106 Hilux. Always winter, always cold. Not ideal for painting. I'm gonna get a heap of runs, and obviously rain is no good. I am gonna do most of the panels in a booth, but I just wanna get door jams and that done at home because like you don't really even see that kind of shit anyway. So I'm getting sidetracked. Right, chassis is lined up with cab under here, okay? So we've got it pushed in where I can roll it in and out. Now what I'm gonna do is roll the chassis out, drop the motor in, figure tight a couple of bolts, but I just need to find a way to kind of get the motor sitting here. I'm hoping I can use this crossbar here and a couple of blocks of timber just on the sump there, just to let it balance. Or ideally, if I can get the fork straight in, leave that sitting there hanging off the fork off the front somehow, and then I can roll it in and out and move it where I need it to go. So it's gonna be a little bit of a balancing act. I don't wanna damage anything on the motor, but the good news is the gearbox on the 8-speed, really small gearbox. We're gonna have no tunnel issues. It's mainly just that forward position so we can fit a radiator in. So let's get it slung up, dropped in there.
Okay, plan of attack here was simple. Grab the engine and box with the forklift, then lower it into the car. I got super lucky because a couple of the cross members that were existing on the chassis meant the motor could sit there without any ropes holding it up.
Wow guys, this looks really good. I'm actually stoked with this. So we got the cab down perfectly lined up with the holes, and there is clearance everywhere. Around the transmission tunnel, around the engine mounts, even I think the bonnet's gonna clear fine. So this is super roughly mocked up. I mean, the motor's got to come up a bit. At the moment, it's resting on that crossbar there, and the transmission pan is resting on the rear cross member. That'll come up to create probably like 20 mil gap, same with the front, so it's going to rise up a bit, but positioning forward to back is looking really good. But what I want to do now is check clearances on a few different things. Number one, I'll just quickly bang the steering box in and make sure our steering arm's going to come through and not interfere with this water outlet. Number two, we'll put the guards and the front cross member on and look for the magic number of 180 mil, about 150 to 180, between the front of the block and that radiator face, and that'll give us room for the clutch fan. With the side guards on, we can check clearances for exhaust, dump pipe, and also the intake. Now I want to make sure the dump pipe doesn't interfere with the steering shaft either. On the other side, it's looking pretty good. The ECU mounts to the block there, but there's nothing else interfering. Tilt-wise, Kaylin said in a patrol when they do these Cummins conversions, they're at about 4 to 5 degrees of rear angle. And I've just checked this one and it's literally at like 4.7 to 5 degrees. So we're bang on there as well. The angle of the motor is really good. And the position is dead center on the chassis line to the crank. So this thing's dropped in pretty close to where it is. So let's get the guards on the front on and check those few different bits of clearances.
Now, if I didn't put the effort in to do this now, I'd be kicking myself later if something didn't fit. So I spent a few hours just making sure that all these accessories were gonna work out, put all the front end on as well so we could check clearances there for radiator, for steering, for dump pipe. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on here. Trying to think ahead is the best option. I sent some photos to Kaylin, who was super happy with how it was looking. I think the CAD work and the effort that he put into that has paid off.
All right guys, we've got some good news with mocking this up. Let me grab the camera. So all the clearances so far are bang on. One that we were worried about was radiator to thermofan, and that's actually gonna work. So we need 170 mil from the face of the block to the front of the fan, and we've actually got 195. So there'll be about a 20 mil gap between the fan and the radiator, which is perfect, because you essentially replace this section here. All the clearances with the guards are all good. They're all sweet. Now, the only one thing that I'm worried about is that intake is sitting very high. So spoke to Kalen, and there's a section under here which is your heater grate. In Australia, you don't need a heater grate because it's not that bloody cold here. So to start the car, you can do it without it. To be honest, there's not even any wires hooked up. So I want to take this off and remove this little block here, and then that should drop that down literally a couple of inches. That's probably a good 50 mil there, and that should help us with that bonnet clearance. If we're having still issues, that's the turbo is the next highest thing. So hopefully that'll fix that issue, but everywhere else, clearance is good. We've even got room here for the dump pipe. So a lot of Cummins guys have to run a crossover, like your patrol guys, but here we've got that much room to go straight down and out the bottom. So happy days with that. I'm just gonna send some measurements to Kalen, and then I'm actually waiting on my plasma cutter to get fixed. So my Z-axis encoder has failed. So this is why I'm kind of mucking around with just mocking up parts, because I've ordered a new encoder, and then my plasma can start working. I can cut the fish plates and the mounts and get them on. So hopefully that'll come next week. It's Friday now. Hopefully it comes on Monday. And then we can actually start welding some stuff in, but I can't make the engine mounts until my plasma's working. So that's what we're waiting on at the moment.
Poor little plasma cutter has been used to death over the last few years, so it needed a little bit of maintenance, but now that it was up and running again, I could go ahead and make my own plates. I'd rather do this at home than pay for a laser cutter where you gotta wait a week or two. If I had to make any changes, I could run upstairs, make the changes, and recut another piece. We've got to get these fish plates onto the chassis. I used some weld through primer on both sides of the plates, then went and tacked it on, cleaned up some areas to get some solid welds on. What I like to do is just space the welds out a couple of inches at a time so you don't have a solid weld right across the chassis causing cracks. I learned that trick from the boys at Superior Engineering, and then after painting you can go through and silicone up the holes.
I'm trying a thing here, guys, where every single cruiser episode we have some sort of giveaway to give back to you guys. And the other day I received the Blahst R30 pressure washer and their wall mounted vacuum. I fell in love with them so bad, I messaged the guys and said, please let me give a set away. So we're giving away a pressure washer and wall mounted vacuum, a reclinable hose here, super easy to use. I use it all the time, washing cars, interiors, all that good stuff. Pretty simple to enter this one, guys. Comment down below. You can say anything you want, any comments and entry, and also follow the guys on their Instagram page. We'll be drawing the winner of this in the next cruiser episode, hopefully next week. Guys, if you don't want to wait around to potentially win one, you can save 15%, use my code BMB if you want to grab yourself one from the Blahst website. Okay, fish plates are in and engine mounts are welded up now. It's getting a little bit precarious here. I've got a few ratchet straps in odd places, but we're getting a bit bush mechanic here because I'm gonna have to run a tape measure over everything. I've kind of eyeballed center. The forklift wants to make the motor kind of rotate like that. So I've managed to get it kind of floating to the point where those mounts fit real good on the chassis. This one here is fitting really good as well. So that's like a nice join there. There is still a lot of weight on the forklift, so this will actually come down a bit. So there's a bit of a gap at the top here, but that'll, once I get the pressure off the forklift, that'll cover that up. So I'm just gonna run a tape measure over literally everything. The center line of the transfer case, the center line of the crank, make sure it's middle. We're at about 6 degrees of rearward angle, but there is still weight on the forklift. Once that front comes down and those engine mounts compress a little bit, we'll probably bang on that 5-degree mark, which is what we want. Plus I can lift the back a little bit. That pan is basically on that cross member, so I can pull the back up super easy. I'm not worried about that at the moment until we make that rear cross member. So I'll throw a couple of tacks on, slowly drop the weight, and then if it's all looking good and the mounts don't need any trimming, then we can basically rip the motor out and go crazy and fully weld those mounts in and just commit. But our positioning forwards to back, I did leave a mark here, which is basically bang on. There were a couple little marks. There was another one here, like that's pretty much in line with that. So it's all sitting where it was. Even on the sump there's a little white dot for that bar. So forward to back wise, it's sitting exactly where it was, which means that clutch, fan and radiator situation will still work fine. So that's the most important part. So let's throw some tacks on and fingers crossed
it's all gonna fit. And then I can drop the cab on and double check all that as well.
Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up.
Bit of a nerve-wracking moment welding these mounts in. It was kind of, once you go ahead and commit to that, you can't turn back. But I'm super happy with the placement. I'm gonna rip the motor out now and fully weld up these engine mounts. Then the whole chassis can run off to powder coating. Oh, actually, hang on, I gotta do cross member first. No, we're gonna do a cross member on the rear. Bugger.
Cloudy days turn to sun rays. Only way to way up. Know my way, know my feng shui. I get to it first, I got you mad. I guess that when I get to it last. Get it, then I'm never gonna.
Once the chassis was fully welded, I did a final check of the cab on there and just massaged the firewall to make those last few bits have some extra clearance for when we put it together for the final time.
Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it, then I'm never going up, going up.
All right guys, big one today. I've finally decided to just get some paint on this cab. Now, it's not the ideal weather, middle of winter, but look at this. This is the weather. Today, cloudy, and then it is just rain as far as the eye can see. So we can't paint in rain. We have to get it done now. So the paint's rocked up. We've got some paint from DNA Custom Paints. Now, I've used their paints a bunch of times before. I'll reveal the color very soon. But the reason you're probably wondering, oh, Sam, why don't you take this thing to a booth? All we're doing today is like engine bay. We've got the inner guards, the front kind of cross member. So the only part you'll actually see on the car is kind of this rear section. And I mean the roof, but like no one sees the roof. So to drag all this stuff to a booth just for that is not really worth it, but I will be doing all the doors, bonnet, everything you see properly in a booth. But I always spray at home usually. So for those little sections, we're just gonna get it done here to save dragging everything down. So what we're gonna do is start with primer. We've got a base coat, the color, and the clear. So I'll run through what we're gonna chuck on and what the color is. We're painting it the color of beer. But before we do that, we're gonna prep this cab. I'm gonna get it all taped up, cleaned up, wax and grease. We've got to cover a bunch of the holes and stuff as well. So let's get that sorted, and then we'll start sorting out what paint we get.
In general, the way to get a perfect paint job is all in the preparation. I made sure I taped up everything perfectly, and also you want to clean the hell out of the panels. Use some wax and grease remover, make sure there's no silicone, dust or dirt anywhere on those panels.
All right, let's talk about the paint that we're going to use. Now, this has actually changed a couple of times. Believe it or not, I'm actually not painting this one black. You all know I love black, and this would have looked awesome in black, but I thought, let's do a color. But the funny thing is, I've picked a color that's basically black. So the idea of this paint is for it to pretty much look black in the shadows, and then in the sun reveals the color, and it's the color of beer. Well, actually, here's a little fun fact. I actually ordered a certain color which was called Pale Ale and sprayed it, and I think it's well above my pay grade because it's a pure candy, which essentially means it's a transparent paint. And as you lay the layers and spray it on, if you get any uneven overlap, you get massive train tracks, which I got, which was so bad I don't even know if I want to put it on the screen. But it was kind of weird because I've used the fuchsia before and the blood red, which are both transparent candies because the Chev was done in red, and it sprayed fine. So it was something about that color. And to be honest, with how dark I wanted it, it would have needed way too many layers anyway. So I went back to the guys at DNA, and they gave me a candy base coat, which isn't transparent, a lot easier to spray, and it has the same effect. It still looks like beer in the sun, so it's like a real dark gold slash brownish maroony color. It's called Candy Base Coat Gold Eclipse. All right, so that's the color we're going, and it should look really dark in the shadows. So if it's indoors, nighttime, even in the middle of the day, if you get the side where there's no sun, it basically looks black, which is sick. And then when you shine light on it, it turns super gold. What I'm gonna do is do a wet on wet paint job, which I haven't done before. Usually I'll spray like a high fill primer, then block it back and prep it, which you do for the big flat panels. But for things like engine bays and wheel arches and that are super, heaps of angles and really hard to sand, I've gone for a different primer, which is wet on wet. So you go straight primer, within 40 minutes or so, you start laying your paint. So we've got a base coat. So for this color, you use a black base coat, and then you paint the gold eclipse on top and finish with a clear coat. So I don't have a cameraman with me today. So usually I do some sick, epic like B-roll sequence of me painting cars. I love doing a cool edit. But for this one, we're on the tripod. We're probably gonna go with the time lapse because I gotta concentrate, I gotta lock in with this. I'm using 2-pack. There's a lot of measuring going on. So let's get it on and fingers crossed it's gonna come out all right. If there's a few runs here and there, it's not too bad because it's hidden, it's in engine bay. And being how cold it is today, that might possibly happen. So let's get some paint laid and see how it looks.
She sits on her ass, he works his hands to the bone to give her money every payday. But she wants more dinero just to stay at home. Well, my friend, you gotta say, I won't pay ya, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Say no way, yeah, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? I guess all this money, well, it isn't enough.
Okay, well, halfway through, we've just laid the base coat. So it uses a black base coat. I only got kind of one layer on, and then the tin that I got was completely gone. So it ran out real quick. I was hoping to get maybe 2 coats of that on, but one is enough. It's enough to sort of cover it. Like, the color itself is quite dark. So this, if there's any tiny bits that are a little bit see-through, it'll get covered anyway, but most of it's pretty good. I mean, black covers pretty well. So now we're looking at the BEEER color, which is pretty dark. So I just opened the container for the first time and it essentially looks black. Like, how crazy is that? But you chuck a bit of light on it, you can see there is gold in there. So I'll go ahead and lay some color now. We'll probably get 2 to 3 coats of that on there. And then it's a shame it's not sunny today, so when actually I see the full effect of the color, hopefully it'll look quite dark and black as is just sitting here. But hopefully my phone torch will be able to show some of the fleck in there, but it's quite a deep gold, like BEEER. Can I just say, we've actually been pretty lucky with the weather too. It hasn't had any rain. Even the air doesn't feel too moist. Like, it's quite dry today, which is good. And no wind. Wind is always just as bad as rain. Like, when you're trying to spray and then like it just blows basically the paint away from the gun off the panel, it's a real pain in the ass. So it's laying really nice because it's dead still today and it's starting to warm up a little bit. So hopefully we've picked the best day we possibly can for the next month or so. Painting is gross work. It's sweaty, it's hard, it's hot. And on your own, when you don't have someone mixing for you, it's non-stop, because as soon as you get back to change your gun, clean it out, put the new color in, like, it's already flashed off ready for the next one. So we've got to keep going, keep moving, rip in, get this color on, and then it's time to clear.
Okay, good news. It's the next day and the weather gods have turned it on for us. It was meant to be raining today, but there's sunshine, which means the paint can set. It's got to bake on there and cure properly. I'm actually super happy with the color. So going back to the original pale ale that I wanted to do, to get it this dark, I would have needed 6 or 7 coats of the candy to get it that dark. This almost looks black in the shade. Looking at the cab in the shade right now, the engine bay looks like a black car. That's what I wanted. But then people come up and ask me, Sam, did you paint your car black? I go, no, I painted it the color of BEEER. And in the sun, you can see that BEEER. It is a dark, bronzy, goldy ale color. So super happy with it. We'll let this stuff flash off and set, and then I can go ahead and literally do the whole interior now. We're gonna sound deaden, do all the car builders interior underlay, and then Jamie from PVS, literally he sent me a photo the other day. He's carrying my dash on the airplane from overseas, full Alcantara dash. That can all be put in. We can basically finish the whole interior of the cab. Then when the rest of the car is done, drop it on and it's finished. So that's the plan now. We also need to do that rear cross member for the gearbox, and then the chassis can go away for powder coating. So we're getting close now. Once all that's done, it's basically reassemble and we build the 79 series. Well, just a quick reminder guys as well, we have our Blahst giveaway. Comment down below, follow their Instagram, and we'll be drawing the winner in the next episode. The QR code's here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.